volunteers because they've all become my friends.
It's Meals on Wheels.
America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
And welcome back once again for more right here on Herbally Yours. And today we have as our guest Dr. Florence McPherson. She is a naturopathic physician licensed in homeopathy and women's health. And she's also a member of the American Institute of Homeopathy, the New York Academy of Sciences, and the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians. You can find her at Dr. Flo McPherson. Don't try to write that if you're listening to us on the road today, but you can check our archives and have a link directly to her website. And thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Flo. Sure. So what is the difference between homeopathy and herbal medicine?
So herbal medicine, you're taking an herb in its full form. So you're taking all the constituents in its crude form. So you take the herb, you dry it, and you prepare it, or you distill it, whichever way. Homeopathic medicines, which are called homeopathic remedies, you take that same plant substance and you dilute it. And you dilute it by extracting the medicinal properties, then dilute it in water, and you shake. By shaking, or what's called succussion in homeopathy, you're also releasing the nanoparticles. So in the dilution, you have particles that aren't of crude substance, and this is what affects the vital force of the patient or the immune system. So when you administer the remedy, the immune system responds to the nanoparticles and then becomes healthier.
Now, that's sort of based on someone's immune system being able to function correctly. What about people who are, let's say, more severely ill and their immune system is not responding appropriately? Would it still be helpful?
Yes, it would be helpful, and that would be the time where that person should consult a professional homeopath, because we have multiple dilutions and multiple strengths or potencies that we can give people based on our assessment of their health, their condition, and their vital force. So in using homeopathy, the prescriptions must be precise because we are dealing with nanoparticles or dilutions, not crude substances. So with herbal medicine or even any pharmaceutical medicine, you can say, okay, take 200 milligrams 3 times a day. In homeopathy, it's much different because we're dealing with more precise measurements. So we have to individualize the prescription as well as the strength with each individual patient and each individual condition.
And really, the results are astounding. Now, I know that you are on top of a lot of the evidence-based research proving the efficacy and safety of homeopathic remedies. That's where, I've been many things in my decades and decades in the field of natural medicine, and one thing I was a psychiatric nurse. Mm-hmm. And I worked in a ward, helping people who were there. And I actually would use homeopathics externally on patients that were having a severe outburst. And just by using homeopathics, I would put it as a liquid on their wrists, would calm them down enough to where they could avoid being sort of tackled by the orderlies. I mean, it didn't make them no longer psychiatric patients, but they would actually sit down. They would listen to me. I mean, what a vast difference just in that one particular venue. Yes. To see people be so much less affronted by something that's quite severe.
And so we see this in our practice as homeopaths. We see conditions that have not been effectually treated by conventional medicine. Those are most of the patients that come to a homeopath. People who have had multiple treatments where nothing has worked. And we sit down, and the interview sometimes can take up to 2 hours because we have to prescribe to everything, what's called the totality of symptoms in homeopathy. So if somebody comes to us with a condition, we're not just prescribing to their cold. If they're coming for a cold, we have to know way more about the person because in homeopathy, like treats like. And that's what we're looking for, a substance that will have the most similar symptoms, giving it in diluted form, and that allows the patient's own natural healing abilities to heal the condition.
Right. So let's give something a little more clear for our listeners to understand. For instance, what happens if you cut an onion? People know what happens there. You can describe it for us, Dr. Flo. And which remedy would you use for those symptoms?
You could use a homeopathic form of an onion because the onion is bringing on the tearing of the eyes, right? And that's the symptom. So we're looking for a remedy or a substance that can cause that in a person. So you dilute the allium, the onion, and you make it into a homeopathic medicine, and you administer to the person, and their vital force will respond to that, and almost as a form of cancellation, cancel the tears, and the person becomes better.
And one of the wonderful things is trying this because it's just amazing how it works. And I want to remind you that you are listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, and my guest today is our expert on homeopathy, Dr. Florence McPherson, licensed naturopathic physician. And thank you so much for being on board with us today, Dr. Flo. Now, let's go into self-treating versus seeing someone like yourself who is a really fully trained homeopath.
For self-treating, you see the homeopathic remedies by the company Boron. They have been around for a very long time. They're a French company. You see the little blue tubes and the names of the remedies and several symptoms that the remedy might treat. For a common cold or oscillococcinum for the flu, you can effectively use that. I think even the best route is to consult a homeopath because you're going to get the full professional experience. If the remedy you choose to take over the counter is not close enough to what matches your symptoms, then you may find it doesn't work. And so then people say, oh, that medicine doesn't work. Well, it might not work because it could have been that it was not properly prescribed.
Right, it wasn't the right choice.
Yes, it wasn't the right choice.
But what about the severity of adverse effects? I mean, when we talk about pharmaceuticals, if you just take something willy-nilly, it might help what you have, and it also might kill you, destroy your liver, destroy your kidneys, you know. How do we find that with homeopathics? Most
homeopathic remedies have very little adverse effects, and they don't interfere with pharmaceutical medications. Oftentimes, it's the pharmaceutical medication that will interfere with the action of the homeopathic medicine because the homeopathic medicine is based on a different science. It's based on the science of nanoparticles. So any substances that you're adding to the homeopathic remedy interferes with the action of those particles, thus it can cancel it out. But for the most part, trying to acutely prescribe, there are homeopathic first aid kits, and I do believe in first aid situations like a bee sting, or a common cold, you can purchase a first aid homeopathic kit, and they have a little brochure, and they could tell you common ailments. One of our famous first aid remedies is Arnica montana. We use Arnica montana, which you can purchase over the counter, for any type of falling, any type of bruising, any type of inflammations that are acute and are brought on by a sudden accident or a fall or such, even a black eye. So what Arnica montana does is it cuts down on inflammation and it speeds up healing. Many plastic surgeons these days are giving their patients Arnica montana post-surgery to help speed up the healing process and decrease inflammation.
And boy, it certainly does. And we're getting close to the end of our time, Dr. Florence, but I want to say as a parent, I could not have gotten through parenthood without my homeopathic first aid kit.
Yes.
Everything for children, even them being worried about going to school and giving a presentation, every little bump and scratch. I used it really almost daily for something with my kids. I can't imagine being a parent without having a homeopathic first aid kit because of the cost effectiveness, the safety, the lack of adverse effects, the quality of the immediate change in the child. I mean, it's such a wonderful thing that I think is vastly underused in conventional medicine.
Yes, and it's a good place for families to begin. And it's a lot of times mothers with children that do begin on the journey of homeopathy. And you can purchase first aid homeopathic kits from many homeopathic companies. Boron, Washington Homeopathics, Hahnemann Labs, to just name a few.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Dr. Flo McPherson, for being our guest today. And thank you for tuning into Herbally Yours, produced in the studios of 90.3 WHPC, Nassau Community College, Garden City, New York. For more information, email us at whpc@ncc.edu. This is your host, Ellen Kamai. You can find me at naturalnurse.com, inviting you to join us next week for another edition of Herbally Yours. Until then, stay healthy.